To all who come, welcome.
Disney is a time machine that takes us back,
connects us together,
and shows us that not even wishing upon a star ever gets old.
Now come sit with your friends, Jonelle,
Sean,
and Megan as we deep dive into the heart of Disney.
Hello, friends, even though you already heard our intro. Anyways, we're vibing today in comfort.
You're the one in comfort. I'm still in jeans and a t-shirt.
Hey, I'm a free spirit over here. With that being said, we're talking about Pocahontas.
Yes.
I only like one. Okay, you're going to hate me again.
How often have you seen Pocahontas in your life?
Only a few.
This is my first time ever seeing it front to back.
This was my third time seeing it front to back, and I still got so bored. And I only like one song.
Colors of the Wind?
Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't like Just Around the Riverbend. Those are like the two songs that I would actually say are actually good.
See, Colors of the Wind just has that nice little trill that somehow goes up my spine that you're just like,
It's called Disney Love Ballads. Because it's in the same category as A Whole New World. Can You Feel the Love Tonight?
But no, like, it just gives me that sensation, you know, when music just makes you happy, that, like, it just crawls up that nice little chill up your spine.
Oh, all the time, yeah.
Yeah. Also, out of all the movies, this one is the most aesthetically pleasing for me.
Interesting.
Next is Bambi.
See, for me, it's Sleeping Beauty. I can't get... I love Sleeping Beauty. But, fun fact, did you know that between Pocahontas and Lion King, they were being made at the exact same time? Lion King was made with their B team of animators because their A team was working on Pocahontas, and yet Lion King wildly outperformed Pocahontas.
Oh, this still makes me sad then, because I'm not a big fan of Pocahontas. I'm really not.
I don't think anyone would say, like, Pocahontas is my favorite Disney princess.
Except for Native Americans.
Based off of the movie.
And sorry for calling you out, but living on the reservation, y'alls really do like to tie yourself to anything that represents Native culture. Now, with that being said, I just want to point out that the Native culture has now gone against the historical inaccuracies of Pocahontas.
Ooh, we're diving right into this.
Okay. And they now want to get a more live action with, like, an actual Native American being Pocahontas. So
okay, we're going to talk about it now because you threw us into the deep end.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
So, I know that Pocahontas is historically inaccurate, but let's be honest though. There is no way to turn this movie into what Disney wanted to and be historically accurate. That is completely impossible.
Yeah. They do turn tragics and just make them cute.
But the thing is like, while it is wildly inaccurate, there are aspects of it that are.
Well, yes.
One being a very important one, being John Smith.
Yes. The funny
Pocahontas
thing,
saving him.
That is the only part we used in AP history for accuracy.
Her saving him or him existing?
Just him existing and her saving him. That's it.
Because that event is part of what makes Pocahontas and John Smith linked together.
That is the only information we used in AP US history for fact. Everything else we disregarded. So this is also why I have a hard time with this movie.
But that's something that bothers me. Because while her life, they didn't touch on the darker parts of her life. Granted, because they happened after the events of the movie.
She changed her name to Elizabeth.
Rebecca, actually. Her English name was Rebecca, and it actually means like mother of two worlds, pointing to the fact that she was like from an indigenous person.
I was like, it's not that she really disregarded her heritage. She just liked the life.
Well, so I told you, like, going into this into recording, that like I actually did a lot of research into Pocahontas's life before, so that way I could like be more informed talking about her. And there are a couple issues on the history because I went through multiple reliable sources. Anything that had magazine or blog, I refused to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that has contradictions is I went through this one website that was like it was a government website, I think around Park Service or whatever. I couldn't remember what specific agency, but it was a government website. And they compared the written history with the oral history. And I think it brings an interesting conversation when that also highlights this movie, because in the written history, yes, there's bad things part of it, but not on the level that we're always told is inaccurate. So like based off of written history with John Smith, which is often his accounts,
Mm-hmm.
like Pocahontas is one shown to be a like what's the word I'm looking for? A liaison between the Powhatan tribe or Powhatan nation, excuse me, and the English settlers of Jamestown, and that the natives would bring food over to the natives and stuff, especially during the winter of I think 1607. But stuff did like come up between the two, like they weren't always 100% at peace and so on.
Well, yeah.
John Smith actually ended up being considered like accepted into the tribe, or like a son of like the chief and stuff, and that was the event that Pocahontas saved them, because it looked like that they were going to like bludgeon him as depicted in the movie, like with the club.
But she did not have a romantic interest in him.
No, that part, yes, is completely inaccurate.
That's where we then just disregard it.
Yes. But the other part, though, about the movie that deserves credit is how it displayed the view of the indigenous Native Americans from the English, how they called them savages, and how Pocahontas took great offense to that and pushed back against that. And how, like, their routine, like, thoughts of, like, them being inhuman, barely human, and the Native Americans being afraid of them and wanting to like protect their land. Like I feel like that was demonstrated so well to be in a Disney family friendly way.
They did do that very well. I will say I really like looking at the social accuracies from both parties when it comes to things like this, because, and we went over this in executive leadership when I was getting my master's, but there are essentially seven different philosophies with many different psychological outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously everything looks different in someone's point of view. Obviously, when the English settlers came over to the Native American lands, the Native Americans are like, I don't know these people. Also, the technology is so different between the Native Americans and the settlers. And then, not to mention, they didn't know that these people came over with diseases that were already naturalized to their culture. And they thought they were doing, and this is the funny part, because settlers think they were doing good, which is, that is, fair. You think you're doing good by offering hand, but little did they know they were actually poisoning these people. They were getting them sick, and it was just because of human design, of the fact that these people had not been vaccinated essentially through genetics. And I mean, there's a lot more that goes into this. I'm just pointing out a certain subsection.
I find it interesting that this was just a story that Disney opted to go with, because if you look at like the time period of the 90s when this released, this was very much a time where Disney was branching out from like average stories that they were initially like using, because they have Pocahontas released, Mulan ended up releasing a few years later, Aladdin release, so you can see that like they're like expanding culture-wise, like what types of stories they're bringing in and so on. I just find it interesting that they went with Pocahontas, who was a real person, versus trying to adapt a Native American story.
See, here's the other part, and like I really try to not dive into being like living on Native American land. I try not to really talk about it a lot because I know I'm white. I don't want to historically talk about it wrong. But I have also listened in on oral traditions, and they're really cool. They're
Oh, yeah.
awesome. But I can't accurately describe that shit.
Oh gosh, no.
No, like no way
Well-
in hell.
Well, so I think this is why like it's really nice having me and you like do this episode, because me and you both grew up around natives, very strongly around natives.
Yeah.
And like I remember like honestly my favorite story, like I can actually say I have a favorite Native American story, and it's a relatively basic one, and it's the story of Raven and the Sun. You know the one I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
It was basically
All of mine are horror stories.
it was basically how Raven found the sun in a box and like brought it out, and that's how we have like sun in the world. I apologize for very much butchering it, but I remember hearing this story in 3rd grade. And,
One of
like,
my
I
favorite
really liked it.
One of my favorite ones, and like I know I've joked about this multiple times, but like the true story of it is really cool. But the water babies and the frozen stone woman.
Mhm.
So in Washington, a lot of area was made from a glacier freeze. So that's how a lot of the land was made, and that's how lakes were made. There was a story that I want to say it was the Nez Perce tribe had orally created. So please do not try to historically accurate me, but it was talked about a few times, just like while I was going to games with my friends and things like that. Also, like a few times from just people in the town, because it is heavily native culture there.
Mhm.
And they still keep their history and their tradition very close to them.
Yeah.
Essentially the whole story is just about an oral tradition of how a stone woman, which is really just a mountain that looks like a woman, who would cry tears, water running off the mountain into these large canyons and fill it, and that's how we got a lake.
Okay.
And I'm curious about the water babies part, though, on why it was like if you saw her babies in the water, they would go and kill you.
I wonder if they're dead.
Well, yeah, her kids are dead.
Vengeance.
But like more specifically, because a lot of sorry, a lot of their historical oral traditions around things like that have that kind of like almost fantasy feel
Mhm.
to put, maybe an easier view on something that was really hard or something that really upset them.
So
This now
I
has
find
me
it
questioning the Bible.
I find it really interesting. I'm gonna say I find native life really interesting.
I love it and also hate it. Well, not
Well,
hate it, but just
in how it's represented in example this movie versus and also Brother Bear. I
Mhm.
think both movies generally do a fair job, more so Brother Bear, but even this movie I think does a fair job of representing the life that they lived, tending the earth. Honestly, they lived a very simple life and they were very satisfied with their lives. Like I think when we think about how we live nowadays, I think there's something to be learned from looking at how the native people lived back then.
I love the fact that you brought this up though, because people are in a continuous search for that fulfillment. Everyone's lonely. We are in a loneliness epidemic. I mean, I've been talking to you just like essentially currently about having to restructure my days. And it is so hard from having to shift from the mindset of wake up, get ready for work, home, bed, and to instead and change it around of what am I gonna do that's meaningful to me? And like what actions am I going to do at work that are gonna take me to my goal? Like you have to really you slow down your life and you purposefully put your actions where you want them.
Well, I think Western civilization even depict honestly, if you were to compare Western civilization in Pocahontas to Western civilization now, there's no difference. They came in here being like, look at how far we've developed. It's never enough. Nothing is ever satisfying to them. It's always, how can we grow more? How can we get better? How can we get better? How can we improve? Like John Smith, when he first calls Pocahontas a savage and she gets really pissed off, he's like, well, we'll show you just how to do life because we know how to do it. Like, we'll give you buildings and roads. And she's like, but we're fine. And I think it's something like, I feel like people nowadays are now starting to get it a little bit more because we heard it from our parents. We heard it growing up of like, money doesn't buy happiness. I know that's not necessarily true, Miss Business Major.
Money doesn't buy happiness, though.
No, but you have said in the past that there is like a rough dollar amount that does make people happy. Like,
Yeah, and it's not a six figure. People are saying like, "Oh, I need 6 figures to live." No, you don't.
in the
It's
economy you do, but
no, you don't.
in today's economy,
No, you don't.
depending on your situation, yes, and where you live, yes.
I will still say
Mhm.
no, but and the reason why I say no,
Really quick, when you say six-figure job, are you meaning 6 figures a paycheck or a year?
a year.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't need to have over 6 figures in a year to thrive in this country.
You're not wrong.
It's helpful. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's helpful, but we curated a culture that relies so much on consumerism.
Consumerism, but also that constant push. And I think we recognize in our own lives nowadays, like, we can only push so much and so hard for so long before we break. And I think like there's a lesson to be learned from like native life with how it used to be, of like how simple their lives was, how like communal their space was, and like
People talk about one thing I find very funny is when you take a civics class here in the United States, because in civics, they always talk about the American dream. And for some people, I loved how heated everyone got into this because I'm just like, the American dream. I remember this in high school, just being like, the American dream is anything you want it to be. And, I look at that now and I'm like, that's technically still true.
Yeah.
Now, granted, some people have harder setbacks than others, but if you're determined enough, you could probably do it. And a lot of people, this Western civilization is the American dream. And then other people, it's the free spirit that is more this American dream. And I think we're finally kind of getting the real collide of our melting pot we created, which is forcing us to actually be a real melting pot and stop trying to be tiny subsections in a giant melting pot. The butter's gotta melt in there with the other oils. We gotta get some herbs and spices. We need to heat it up and make it nice and juicy. We gotta feed everyone.
See, I've heard it described of like, we're not a melting pot as much as they want us to be a melting pot. We're more of a chopped salad.
Yes.
Bunch of different vegetables just mixed together.
Yeah, no, I very much agree with that because, yeah, if we wanted it to be a melting pot, we need to stir it.
Well, the idea of a melting pot is like we take all these people and it's basically what factually happened to Pocahontas, where she was kidnapped as a bargaining chip and forced to learn Christianity and then chose to convert and went to England.
Which that's also the really sad part and that's what I don't like about Native American culture. But what I hate about Native American culture today is the disgrace that they put on people who they think did that to them. And it's just like, did you see this in your lifetime? No, your families have died in their honor. Like, that's what I kind of wish we'd recognize is they died in your honor to make sure you didn't have to go through the same bullshit they did. And here you are bitching about it when it never happened to you.
You bring up an interesting concept because we see it with a lot of different cultures than just natives.
And the Native Americans have so many stories of us doing this to them. Just the Trail of Tears, that is a huge known one to the United States. But if you lived in Grand Coulee on our small reservation, moving their ancestrals' graves, digging up dead people and burying them elsewhere, we physically moved their dead family.
I feel like this brings up an interesting topic of what got coined as white guilt.
Yeah.
There is no right answer is the problem. It's wrong to try and make people like me and you apologize for things that we never did.
Yeah.
I know I never did. My family came to Canada long after,
Now, granted, my family is basically everything wrong with American history. I do have like family that's from Kentucky where there is slave owners at the time and there was a plantation and there's just kind of, family still in that area. But I also have other family that was actually on the Trail of Tears and we have our Native American ring still. But I'm not Native American enough to even be Native American. And I think this is also another good point to bring out is how much political power Native Americans have. Because one thing that continuously comes up if you live on a reservation, at least the one that I lived on, is 18 money. And you guys had that too, right?
18 money?
Mm-hmm.
Is that referring to the money that like native children would receive
When they turn
even before 18?
Yeah. So on reservations, Native American people receive money up till they're like smaller amounts until they're 18. And then when they're 18, they get a lump sum. But then even after that, they still get like monthly payments anyways, because their tribe will go back to Congress and continuously fund for more money to pay for their tribe. And the money just goes directly to the family members.
I wish we had planned this long enough in advance to where we could have had a guest here with us to talk more about it, because I don't want to say it's my own ignorance, but my own like confusion. I don't know. There's times where the whole thing, like, you learn from history to not let history repeat itself. But you can't undo history. And I beg the question, what is enough? What will satisfy the sins of the past? Like, you hear,
Well, and Native Americans want land and monetary value for it because they're like, you took our land. Which, at that point, because of what we built, should we continuously keep paying them?
but the thing is,
Also, they have their own government, too.
I know they do, but if
That
they,
I do like.
I don't know. We're hitting that point of uncomfortable with me talking about it because I'm just not as informed and
That's
like
okay.
there's the two of us. Like I do really wish we had someone who was like a Native American here to talk with us about it. Because there's only so much that we're able to know, and I don't.
I mean, I dated a few of them. Does that count?
Well, and I feel like the education and the representation, I will say the representation does not do itself justice.
No.
Because you know the experience growing up around
It's
Native
drugs
kids.
and alcohol.
Yeah. And
It's drugs and alcohol, people.
And the flaunting of the money.
Yeah.
Like
Here's the thing. This is what they need, though. They need people to help teach them how to budget with their money and actually, because casinos are so popular on reservations too. This is how they get more money and more jobs. Now, that is a great thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with casinos.
other than they're only legal on native land, I think.
Yeah, that is the only thing. But they do provide a lot of great jobs and a lot of great services.
And the economy.
Yeah, so they really do help the economy. But in terms of the money that they are getting from the government, it should not be going towards alcohol. Like, these are what they are using for monthly expenses. So, yes, they are going towards bills. Yes, they are going towards car payments. Also, do you know how many cars basically get repossessed off of their loans? And it's on most of them are on Native American lands.
I do not know that number.
But
But
it's horrible. There's just a lot of bad decisions that need to be fixed.
yeah.
And
It-
social programs would be helpful, I think.
Well, and I think what would be helpful for everyone is really understanding the life that they had. Again, we go back to that very simple life where they had like their oral tradition stories, how they invoked the spirits, and how they really were one with nature, respected nature, the spirits of nature, and worked alongside it, explored it on path, didn't want to desecrate it at all.
I will say,
And like what we grew up with, that is the complete opposite.
well, I mean, I grew up really pretty well with when I was on the reservation of listening to nature because one thing our reservation, and I think they did a really good job with this. I really appreciate the culture for this. But understanding the value of life around you. And this is more in terms of hunting and the land and the sky and the water, because they pay a lot of attention into when you kill an animal, you are providing for everyone.
And they also understand that when you kill an animal, you're taking an animal's life. Like I think about Brother Bear and how yes, they killed animals, but the instant that Kenai went and killed that mama bear out of vengeance, that was a disrespecting to the spirits.
Yeah.
They
Well, and
understood
they
the sanctity
also,
of it at the same time.
and there also just goes into a lot of care into reusing and recycling material around them that they then get to wear on their regalia. Not saying that nicotine is a great habit, but they do use their tobacco chewing cans to create their little bangles on their dress. And it's cute. I think it's cute. I don't like the nicotine habit, but I mean, I don't like my own nicotine habits. I can't talk that much shit. It's such a hard spot because we are the white people in this situation.
Yes, we are.
Hello, I'm a white person.
Same here.
Please do not be offended by said white person.
Yeah.
We know we are owning up to who we are born.
I find growing up for me, I never heard much about the natives until I entered middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was at first, I was pretty chill with it until I saw how a lot of like the native kids acted. And then there was an event when I first entered high school, my freshman year, that was caused by a member of the tribe, like a student that was part of the tribe, and with a firearm that he was not supposed to have, let alone his father was supposed to have. And I know ever since then, like, there's been like real big issues between.
You know what's so sad is that literally could be like half of Washington at any moment. There has been countless times in Grand Coulee where Native Americans have driven their trucks with their firearms just in the back from hunting. But like, not saying that they're bad gun owners, just these are on schools. They need to not be on schools.
Yeah, and this event really like
And they can't.
brought a lot of issues between like the rest of where I grew up and the tribe literally right across the freeway. The freeway was our divider.
Yeah. And like your guys' school's still affected all the way over on this side of Washington. Because then shortly after that, there was another incident at it's the school that's near the Coeur d'Alene tribe, which is interesting.
There was when the event initially happened, schools all along the coast of Western Washington all were in lockdown because they were unsure of the ties that this student had. Which again is like,
I find this really interesting because I do think that this would be something to look into, is just the aggression patterns of Native American, like just looking into Native American families today, because they are the men are very aggressive.
or at least have a strong tendency to be, yeah.
Yeah, because the men drink a lot and they're horrible with their liquor. Sorry, not all Native American men are like this, just majority of them are.
We're speaking from our own experience, which it's hard because we're not trying to generalize at all.
No,
Our experience is growing up alongside Native American tribes
it's
and
so
seeing
funny.
the behaviors that we saw from different members of the tribes. And
My first boyfriend, his dad hated the hell out of me because I was white. And according to my mom, like he was constantly telling my mom about the horrible things my family did to him specifically. And it's like, we did none of those to you.
I had a friend who was Native that she like was told that she couldn't be friends with us because we weren't Native.
I mean, I gotten that a few times, and it was so hard growing up in a Native American town too, especially when you're a child who just moved there, because I moved in there like generally right about the time when you're entering the phases of puberty. Yeah, except I was still in elementary. So I went in fourth grade, but I was hitting those early beginning signs for a girl. And so, of course, like for me, liking boys, like you only get so many options in a small town. And Native Americans were just like, no, you're white. I can't get money from you. We can't have kids that make money. And then the second part of that, I need to stop doing that. But the second part of that was just they weren't interested at all because they were so fucked up. Kids were going to school drunk, and I know because I had joined them sometimes. It's not a good thing to do. I remember going to practice, and I was not drunk at this time, but actually, I wasn't drunk at all during this time. I was going to practice though. I was not actually playing the sport. I was the manager, but just went to go do things. And the other person who was supposed to join me in the same activities, she's drinking out of her water bottle, which is like a plastic water bottle. And I just like noticed her making weird faces. And we all know ignorant Jonelle, but I'm just like, why do you keep making weird faces after you're drinking your water? Like if it's water, you shouldn't be making weird faces. She's like, water. And I'm like, I legitimately don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What is water in quotation marks? And they're like, Jonelle, it's vodka. And I'm like, why do you need to be drinking at school? Because it's fun. That's the whole thing. They just do it because it's fun, and then it stops being fun and it turns into an addiction. And then this is the part that I get so angry with, is when it turns into an addiction, because reservations are filled with a lot of people on addictions, and it's the most depressing shit to live in. It is the most volatile thing to be in.
It's because I think there's such a strong potential of like Native American culture to be absolutely beautiful. And
Well, and those who don't have addictions in the tribe that go and actually go to school and become successful, and I know a lot of them. One of them even lost a tooth, but you know what? She goes on YouTube videos for like a lot of those controversial topics, and she will talk to different cultures, and she will even like talk to white people, but like they'll ask her questions about being a Native American, and then she'll just answer them. But
so
they're so successful because they just didn't follow the culture, but they did. They followed their traditional culture.
there we go. See, going back to like the historical part of like Pocahontas.
Oh yeah, we
it bo-
totally
it bo-
sided away from that, didn't we?
We stayed on topic a little bit, but it bothers me it getting hated on so badly for historical inaccuracies, because this, from what I gather, looking at the movie and when I did a lot of research into Pocahontas' life, this focuses on a very narrow part of her life when John Smith was there, which she would have been like 10, 11 years old. The worst parts that happened to her happen after the context of this movie. The only really, truly inaccurate part of the movie is her romance with John Smith.
Which is not real.
Yes.
Sorry,
But
people.
her, like, saving him or whatever from being clubbed or whatever, that's a thing that happened. Him being shot at and going back to England, that was when he left and was the last, like, time, like, Pocahontas saw him until she went to England herself. Her being kidnapped happened after the context of the movie. Her being supposedly Ard happened outside of the context of this movie. And I say supposedly because that's one of the key parts that like is put as ambiguous between sources. That government website I was referencing earlier, infants like written story versus oral tradition. And the oral tradition states Ard, the written didn't. So there is like some differences on like that piece of it. But like there is general consensus that the worst parts of what happened and stuff happened outside of the context of the movie, and relatively, besides overall perception, what happened did happen, but the perception of how it happened was different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I know. But see, this is why we disregarded the rest of it for AP history, because we had to look at Pocahontas when she became an English settler, because we were looking a lot into how Native American history was being ripped away from them physically. So in AP US history, you go through everything.
That's why it's called a push. You're pushing to do everything.
Yes, it sucks. Oh my god, I drowned it in that class.
I have party wishes I took it, but I'm also happy I didn't.
Yeah, you should be grateful you didn't. But I feel really bad for the culture, because after taking a deep dive and realizing what we did to strip them of their culture, and then once we realized that we had immunities that they didn't, we used that as a weapon against them. We found,
Which
like,
Which Pocahontas was not a victim to.
Yeah.
She died by pneumonia and possibly tuberculosis, but pneumonia was the one that mostly came up on my research.
But, I mean, that was probably still given by the conditions of what she had lived in. Because if she had traveled across the seas...
Well, because pneumonia has to do with like particulates being in the lungs. Like even like water in the lungs can cause pneumonia. So
I know. Like, but what I'm saying is, like, where did she live here in the United States?
would have been Virginia. Like that's where she was. Like that's actually factual, Virginia, and that's where Jamestown is.
I'm like, I don't know what the average...
Eastern United States. So
Yeah, but we're also looking back hundreds of... Because,
this happened 400 years ago.
yeah, I was like, we're looking back hundreds of years ago. I don't know if anyone knows this, but the Earth actually does go through cycles.
Well, and it changes a lot.
And the
too.
Earth is currently going through a cycle right now.
Yeah, we noticed.
Yeah. And we're... Oh my God.
Thank you, damn groundhog, for 6 more weeks winter.
I know. Even though it doesn't feel like it.
I mean, the rest of the countries were pissed off than us, but
I was going to try and have us wrap this up, though, but I forgot where I was going with Pocahontas. Yes, I just don't know what the precipitation and what the weather was like in either areas that she was in that would have caused this, because with modern science today, we could probably be able to pinpoint maybe some areas.
well, so she actually died in England. She died in England to pneumonia. She was going to be heading back over here, actually.
Don't they have a lot more fog?
England's known for its rain. Let's just say that.
So
It is known for rain. It's like Washington.
And there's a lot of people here in Washington who regularly get pneumonia because of the rain.
Yeah.
So we could say there is a probable cause that she got pneumonia from moving, because it's not the same conditions in which she was adapted to.
I don't know. This movie, I feel like, definitely wasn't bad.
I mean, it's not a bad movie. It just doesn't interest me.
Me neither, weirdly enough. Which is funny considering how like weirdly interested we also are in like native culture.
See, that's why it doesn't interest me, because I know it's not... See, Native American culture is so interesting because all the tribes are so different.
It's true. Also, fun fact, did you know that the person who played Pocahontas's dad, the chief, was actually like a real Native American activist and stuff like that?
No, I did not know that. But no, like the area that you grew up in, there is definitely a lot more like cedar and totem.
Yep.
And then where the Nez Perce tribe is in Grand Coulee, it's not as... Because let's admit it, there's not really trees in Grand Coulee. It's like a...
Through the middle of Washington, there's no trees.
Yeah, it's like a desert. So, like, for that, it's more of deer and moose and birds and fish. So there's a lot more aesthetics. Lavender and buffalo hide too.
Yeah, the tribe I grew up with was very much like, because of the Puget Sound,
Cedarwood, totem,
canoe
fish,
fishing. That was
the
their whole...
orcs.
Literally, orchid was the symbol of their tribe.
Okay, I know exactly which tribe it is then, because I did a...
I dare you. I want to see if you actually got it right. Which tribe is it?
It's not the Snohomish, is it?
No.
Okay, I didn't do the Snohomish.
That is the County.
Oh my God. Salish is the language. Language. So Snohomish, Salish, it's still around that. I want it. Squamish.
Snoqualmie?
Yeah.
That is a tribe, but wasn't the one I grew up with.
Which one is it?
Tulalip.
Okay, I did not do that one specifically, but I did a surrounding tribe, but they did really good trade with their fish.
Lachute seed?
It was in the surrounding area, so it may not be.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's so many of them, though.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is there's so many small categories of different tribes,
Yep.
and each tribe is so different because I'm sure everyone notices in the United States, but we got different Americans
Yes, we do.
because Native Americans took this entire land. So the ones up here are more centered around the fish in the air and the living animals.
And depending on the area of the state, forests and stuff as well.
Yeah, like really up where you are was the forest, but where we were,
There's in water for us, yeah.
yeah, for us, we would like have cedar wood be brought over
Mhm.
for the tribes here, but for us, it was a lot more hide, teepees, and lavender.
Yeah. Which makes sense, given the landscapes and everything.
Yeah.
Like, even in Spokane, though, like, we have a couple, like, random monuments right on the Spokane River.
Well, I think that's
down by the
also
mall.
because there's been a lot more money put into the education back into the tribe and also trying to reliven that culture here.
So this
Because
brings-
Washington has the largest reservation.
So So this is a weird question, though. And I know, like, we're getting into, like, a little bit of a long episode, but I don't care. If we were to bring learning about Native American culture back more into, like, our own schooling, because I know we have to take, like, a Washington State history, like, unit in, like, 8th grade or whatever. Would you rather learn about the culture in terms of, like, history? Or would you rather learn about do you think it'd be better off learning about the culture as the culture, like their stories, tradition,
Well, I've learned it both.
the life? Would you rather learn about, like, the life of the culture or, like, the history of the culture if you were to try and, like, educate people about it?
Luckily, I've done both. Because Grand Coulee is really good. About every 2 years, they host a Native American Day at the school, and Native Americans from the reservation come down with like things to make regalia, things to weave baskets, like everything. Like there's over 30 plus different Native American things to go do. Kids are not bored. You have to sign up for 5 of them. Anyways, I think the best to really understand Native Americans is honestly through that because they teach their history as they teach the skill. Because the history is within the land and they're teaching you how to care for your land, how to care for your animals.
But I feel like history and how it gets talked nowadays is more on the history of what happened. I feel like they focus on things like the Trail of Tears and hell, example, like Pocahontas, what happened to Pocahontas. I feel like that's the history that gets focused on
Yeah.
versus, like, the history of, like, the tribe itself and the skills and, like, what it means to, like, to
So
weave or to make a canoe or the
Native
longhouses.
I was like Native American schools actually do I know you had your school on the reservation.
My school wasn't on the reservation, but it was very, like, again, our
Okay.
divider was the freeway.
So our school was on the reservation. We have several schools on the reservation.
So does my district. They have, like, their own school still,
Yeah.
which only Native kids can go to.
This one it could be anyone, but regardless of that, they bring in people from different tribes occasionally to just teach them about the life of what that tribe goes through. And I honestly think that is a lot more beneficial because they teach why it was historically important also to build the longhouses, to build the teepees. Why? Because they did these for important reasons. They knew how to build houses. It's not like they were dumb. But you know, their reasons were much more simplistic living. They didn't need much. They were fulfilled by so much little.
They were fulfilled by everything that their culture gave them. And they didn't have that need to be pushing that
Yeah.
the Western civ brought. This was a good, like, talk.
Yeah,
I like this one.
I know. It makes you a little less pissed off at me than the last one.
Oh, chill. Okay, well, we're gonna let you guys all go.
I'm in my pajamas and I'm ready for bed. It's Jonel's bedtime.
Bye, friends.
Bye.